Is the human mind purely a product of neuroscience, or is there something deeper at play?
And by deeper, do you mean mystical and profound? Or that feeling you get when you've had way too much coffee?
The real question is whether science alone can explain everything about how we think, feel, and experience reality, or if there's a spiritual energy guiding us in ways we can't measure.
And that's exactly where Darius J. Wright comes in. He's not afraid to challenge the scientific playbook, blending neuroscience with the idea of spiritual energy to reveal a bigger picture.
Today, we're exploring the fascinating intersection of neuroscience and spiritual energy, and how the two might actually work together to unlock the mysteries of the human mind.
We'll cover 7 topics, from the brain's neural networks to energy fields and intuition. But keep your eyes and mind open for topic 5. That's where things take a turn you probably won't see coming.
So, here's your first question. Do you think the mind is just biology? Or does it have a spiritual essence science can't fully explain?
While you're thinking about that, hit that like button so more curious minds can join us, and subscribe so you're here when we dive into the unknown.
Let's start with the science. Neuroscience sees the mind as the product of the brain's physical processes. Billions of neurons firing, exchanging chemical signals called neurotransmitters, and forming complex networks.
Which is basically the brain throwing the most high-tech rave in the universe, except instead of music, it's thoughts, emotions, and bad decisions at 2 a.m.
Through brain scans, we've learned which regions light up when we feel joy, fear, or make choices. We know how certain brain chemicals influence our mood, memory, and even our personality.
Yeah, dopamine makes you feel good, serotonin keeps you stable, and caffeine, well, caffeine makes you rearrange your furniture at 3 in the morning.
But here's the thing. While neuroscience can explain a lot about how the brain works, it still can't fully explain why we have subjective experiences.
Right. Science can tell you which neurons fire when you smell fresh bread, but not why that smell reminds you of your grandmother's kitchen and makes you feel safe.
And when it comes to things like intuition, spiritual visions, or a sense of connection beyond yourself, neuroscience is still in the dark.
Which is why it's worth looking at another perspective, one that doesn't just study the brain, but the energy that might flow through it.
Now let's flip the lens. Across ancient traditions and modern spiritual practices, there's this idea of spiritual energy, a life force that flows through and around the body.
You might have heard it called qi in Chinese philosophy, prana in Indian traditions, or that vibe your friend talks about after their first yoga retreat.
This energy is believed to influence our thoughts, emotions, and even physical health. It's not just a poetic metaphor. In many systems, it's considered the foundation of life itself.
And unlike the scientific model that focuses only on what happens inside the skull, the spiritual energy view says the mind is part of a much larger energetic field.
In this perspective, spiritual energy connects us to higher states of consciousness, shapes our intuition, and brings emotional clarity.
Darius J. Wright puts it simply: spiritual energy is the missing key to understanding the full potential of the human mind.
And for those who've experienced deep meditation, energy healing, or moments of pure intuition, it's not about believing in magic. It's about noticing a kind of intelligence that operates beyond logic.
Which makes me wonder, maybe the brain is more like the hardware, and spiritual energy is the software update we didn't even know we needed.
That's exactly the kind of bridge Darius builds, blending neuroscience and spiritual energy into one integrated view.
And that's where we're headed next, into how Darius actually combines these two worlds in practice.
For Darius J. Wright, the human mind can't be fully understood through neuroscience alone, and it can't be fully explained by spirituality alone either.
Yeah, he's like the person who shows up to a debate between a scientist and a monk, and somehow gets them to agree on something.
His core belief? Both neuroscience and spiritual energy are essential to unlocking the mind's full potential. As he says, the mind is not confined to the brain. It's a bridge between the physical and the spiritual realms.
Which is a pretty big statement. It means that thoughts, memories, and even identity aren't just trapped inside your skull.
Darius often talks about his own out-of-body experiences, deep meditations, and other states of expanded awareness, ways of exploring the mind that don't rely on the brain alone.
He believes these experiences connect him, and potentially all of us, to a universal consciousness, something that isn't bound by time, space, or neurons.
And it's not about rejecting science, it's about expanding it to include the energetic and spiritual dimensions that can't yet be measured.
Which raises the big question, can science and spirit actually work together, or are they destined to stay on opposite sides of the room, pretending they're not looking at each other?
That's exactly what we'll explore in the next part, the possibility that neuroscience and spiritual energy aren't rivals at all, but partners in understanding the mind. So, can neuroscience and spiritual energy actually work together? Darius believes they can, and that they must if we want the full picture of the human mind.
It's kind of like having both eyes open. Sure, you can see with one, but when you use both, you get depth. Neuroscience gives us the biological blueprints, the brain structures, the neural pathways, the chemistry.
And spiritual energy adds the dimension of experience, the unseen connections, the intuitive flashes, the sense of being part of something greater.
In fact, some scientific research is already pointing toward this integration. Studies on meditation, for example, show measurable changes in brainwave patterns that correlate with deeper states of awareness.
And energy healing, things like Reiki, acupuncture, even sound therapy, they're starting to get studied for their effects on the nervous system and emotional balance.
The emergent idea is that the mind is both a biological system and an energetic field, constantly interacting with the world around it and perhaps even the wider universe.
Which is wild, because it means improving your mind might be as much about tuning your energy as it is about training your brain.
And that brings us to intuition and energy healing, not just as concepts, but as active forces shaping how the mind works.
Yep, and that's coming up in topic 6, which might just make you rethink how you see your own thoughts. Let's talk about intuition, one of the most fascinating and often underestimated abilities of the human mind.
Yeah, that moment when you just know something without knowing why. Like feeling you shouldn't take that route home and then finding out there was a huge traffic jam there.
Darius describes it as the mind's ability to tap into higher levels of consciousness and universal knowledge. It's not a random guess, it's a connection to something beyond the brain's regular data processing.
Which means your best ideas might not come from overthinking, but from tuning in.
And then there's energy healing. Practices like Reiki, acupuncture, chakra balancing. The idea is that by clearing blockages in the body's energy field, you can improve mental clarity, emotional resilience, and even physical health.
Science is starting to catch on here too. Some studies show changes in brainwave patterns, reduced stress hormones, and improved mood after energy healing sessions.
Darius believes intuition and energy healing work together. Intuition tells you where imbalance exists, and energy healing helps restore harmony.
So basically, it's like having an internal mechanic and a repair toolkit for your mind.
And that leads us to the big takeaway. The future of understanding the mind may depend on blending the measurable with the immeasurable.
Which is exactly what we'll wrap up with in our final section.
So, what's the takeaway? If we want to truly understand the human mind, we can't look at it through just one lens.
Yeah, trying to explain it with only science or only spirituality is like trying to play a piano with half the keys missing.
Neuroscience shows us the biological framework, the wiring, the chemistry, the patterns. Spiritual energy reveals the unseen, the flow, the intuition, the connection to something greater.
And when you put them together, you start to see a much bigger, much richer picture of what the mind really is.
So here's your challenge. Explore your own mind using both perspectives. Try meditation, learn something about brain science, pay attention to your intuition, and see how it changes you.
And if you've had an experience where science and spirituality seem to meet, drop it in the comments. Your story might spark something for someone else.
While you're here, give this video a like so more people can join the conversation, and subscribe to The Quantum Soul for more journeys into the mysteries of mind, spirit, and everything in between.
And right now you'll see 2 videos on your screen. Click one to keep exploring because this journey doesn't stop here.
The mystery of the mind will never be solved by science alone. It lives where the known meets the unknown.